It's Women's History Month this month, and we're here at the Greeley History Museum with Holly Berg, Museum Curator, in the collections to talk about women's history in Greeley and in Colorado. Holly, can you tell us a little bit about the suffrage movement in Colorado?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first kind of opportunity that women in Colorado had to gain the right to vote, gain their suffrage, came in 1876 when the state constitution was being written. They could have, if their campaign was successful, lobbied to get that clause into the state constitution, much like Wyoming and Utah. But that effort failed, unfortunately. But that didn't stop them. They organized and spread a lot of campaigns. They got it on the ballot once more. It failed again. And they finally got it back to the ballot in 1893. And this time it was successful, but it passed by a margin of less than 10%. But they got it. And it's kind of tempting to think that when Colorado women gained suffrage, of course this was a full 27 years before the 19th Amendment would gain all women across the nation the right to vote. But it's tempting to think that they won. Okay, they can stop. Now, that was the ultimate goal. That was the victory. But that wasn't the case. That wasn't how it happened at all. They just kept right on going, fighting for a lot of different rights and taking their place among the world.
Perfect. So can you tell me a little bit about this item that we have next to us?
Yeah, sure. So one of the objects that I've pulled from collections to talk about is this fancy record cabinet here. Of course, it doesn't look so fancy after its years of use here, but this belonged to Lena Pleak. Lena Pleak was an early trailblazer in our history. She grew up in Indiana, but she contracted tuberculosis, which was unfortunately pretty common at the time, and she moved to Greeley at the age of 23 in 1891 to alleviate the condition because the air was drier here, which was a common recommendation for people suffering from tuberculosis. So that meant she was here in 1893 when Colorado women gained the right to vote. So she went on and decided that she was going to run for office. So she ran for city treasurer, and she was elected in 1901, and that made her the first elected woman in Weld County after women gained the right to vote in Colorado. She served for 38 years as city treasurer, managing her tuberculosis the entire time, and she retired in 1941 at the age of 73. And unfortunately passed away just 2 weeks later.
All right, thanks so much for telling me about this. Let's head up to our next item, upstairs in textiles.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. All right, so we've stepped into the textiles room here at the Greeley History Museum. Can you tell me a little bit about this hat that you have here?
Yeah, of course. So this hat didn't belong to our next person that we're going to highlight, but she would have worn something very, very similar, which is why we have it out here today. So we are talking about Sue Ogata Cato. So she was born in Nebraska, and her parents had immigrated to the United States from Japan. So she was a first-generation Japanese American. They really wanted to buy land, and I imagine start a big ranch or farm. They were prohibited from buying land in Nebraska at that time. So in 1938, the family moved to Greeley. And of course, 1938, this is the lead up to World War II. Tensions are pretty high. And then World War II starts, and Sue feels called to go join the war effort. And at that time, of course, women had separate branches that they could serve in. So in 1943, Sue joined the WACS, the Women's Army Auxiliary Corps. In a later interview, she remembers saying that her brothers were still too young to fight in the war, and she felt like she had to go do something. So she joined, and as part of her training, she, along with about 47 other Japanese American women, were sent to a military intelligence language service school, it's a mouthful, in Minnesota. While she didn't speak fluent Japanese, she learned Japanese there so that she could help translate military intelligence documents during the war. So She ended her service, and in a later interview, she was recalling her service time. And I have the quote written here so I don't misquote her. She said, "I knew they needed WACs, the Women's Auxiliary Corps members, to take desk jobs so the fellows could go to the front. We did it for all Japanese Americans. I was proud to be an American, and I was waving the American flag. I would do it all over again, and I don't regret any part of it."
Awesome. She sounds really fascinating. Now, I think we have one more thing to look at. We are located in the Greeley Tribune building, the Greeley History Museum is. So let's go take a look at something related to the Greeley Tribune. All right, Holly, can you tell us a little bit about Mildred Hanson?
Yes, so our final object that we have for this interview today is this printing plate here. So longtime residents of Greeley may recognize the name Mildred Hanson or her uncle's name, Charles Hanson, as the editor of the Greeley Daily Tribune. So Mildred had a tragedy early in her life. She lost both of her parents in 1911, and after that, her aunt and uncle adopted her, Charles Hanson and Christina Hanson. So despite that, she overcame a lot, and she was a very good student. She graduated high school at the age of 15 and then went on to attend the school we now know as UNC, but it was called CSCE at the time. And then she also attended a business college in California. So when she came back to Greeley, she ended up working for her uncle, Charles Hanson, as a proofreader here at the Greeley Tribune, which is, of course, this very building right here. And she did that for many, many years. When her uncle Charles passed away in 1953, the business passed to Mildred's aunt, Christina. Teeny is what she went by. She had no passion for running this business or anything to do with the newspaper, but she knew that Mildred was very passionate about it. So she passed the business to Mildred, and that made Mildred the first woman female publisher of a daily newspaper in the state of Colorado. And she would run the Greeley Tribune for many years after that. So this printing plate here is the header. It was used in the printing process, and it would essentially stamp the header on the Greeley Tribune newspapers for the duration of Mildred's tenure here. And of course, this is created from the Greeley Daily Tribune written in Horace Greeley's handwriting.
Awesome. So we've learned a lot about some women here. Looking at the Beyond Suffrage exhibit, who is your favorite woman that is featured in that exhibit?
Oh gosh, it's really hard to choose. They're all so dynamic. I think I have two. So listeners, if you go check it out, make sure that you go check out Minerva Jackson, O.T. Jackson's wife. O.T. Jackson gets a lot of credit as the founder of Deerfield, but man, Minerva was the one running the show. And then my second is Greeley's first and only female mayor, Dorothy Zabka. Make sure you check out her super awesome cat eye glasses.
Great. All right, thanks so much for talking with us about this today. If you'd like to learn more about these women and more, go to greeleymuseums.com to check out the Beyond Suffrage exhibit.